How many times have you spoken to someone and felt the energy vanish within seconds? Maybe you asked the usual, "How are you?" or gave a polite nod and then silence. No spark, no connection. The truth is, most conversations fail not because people don't care, but because the words we use have no life in them. They're routine, predictable, and instantly forgotten. But here's the secret the Stoics understood, and modern psychology confirms. A few well-chosen words can change everything. The right words don't just fill silence. They open hearts, lower defenses, and create presence so magnetic that people can't help but lean closer. Today, I'll share 5 powerful words, timeless words, that carry this hidden influence. Use them sincerely, and you'll notice people begin to trust, respect, and even feel drawn to you. These aren't tricks. They're the language of wisdom, sharpened by Stoic philosophy itself. Welcome to Wisdom for Worlds. I'm glad you're here, because today's conversation is more than communication tips. It's about transformation. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, didn't waste words. They knew that a single phrase could calm anger, earn trust, or inspire action. Modern science now proves what they practiced. Our words shape how others feel about us, and even how safe they feel around us. In this video, I'll reveal 5 words that change the way people experience you. 5 words that can replace small talk with connection and make your presence unforgettable. Let's begin. Word number 1. Understand. At the heart of connection lies one of the rarest human experiences, feeling understood. When you say, "I understand you," you're not just speaking, you're offering one of the most profound gifts anyone can receive. Modern psychology shows that the need to be understood ranks alongside the need for safety and belonging. Neuroscientists discovered that when someone feels understood, the brain's emotional alarm center, the amygdala, calms down, while the prefrontal cortex, the seat of empathy and regulation, becomes more active. In simple terms, your words literally transform chaos into calm. That's why understand is magnetic. It doesn't flatter, it doesn't manipulate, it relieves, and people are naturally drawn to anyone who offers relief. The Stoics practiced this in silence before words. Epictetus warned, "First learn the meaning of what you say and then speak. To understand before responding is to master your ego." It means pausing, setting aside pride, and responding with clarity instead of reactivity. I remember a moment years ago with a colleague who was frustrated about a failed project. My instinct was to defend myself, explain, justify. Instead, I looked him in the eye and said quietly, "I understand you." Then I paused. The change was immediate. His shoulders dropped, his voice softened, and the defensiveness melted. That simple phrase didn't solve the problem, but it created the space for real dialogue instead of conflict. The power lies not just in the words, but in the delivery. Say it slowly. Make eye contact. Then allow silence to follow. That pause tells the other person, "You don't need to fight to be heard here." And when people feel they don't have to fight, they relax and they attach to you. In relationships, friendships, or even tense negotiations, understand shows presence. It shifts you from adversary to ally. Instead of being someone to resist, you become someone to trust. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to look into the minds of others, to understand why they do what they do. He knew that empathy wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. And in your daily life, using the word understand anchors you in that same wisdom. So the next time you face frustration, criticism, or even simple conversation, remember, few words carry more weight than this. I understand you. It calms storms, invites openness, and makes you the person people feel safe with. And safety, more than charm or cleverness, is what draws people closer. Word number 2. Sense. The second word is sense. At first glance, it seems ordinary, but when you say, "That makes sense," you're doing something profound. You're telling the other person, "I've heard you. I've processed your reasoning." I respect the path your mind just took. Unlike empty agreement, sense communicates recognition. You don't have to fully agree with someone to acknowledge their logic. And that acknowledgement is powerful because it satisfies one of the deepest human needs, the need for validation. Psychologists call this emotional mirroring. When we reflect back that something makes sense, we confirm to the speaker that their effort to explain themselves landed. Social psychology's shared reality theory explains why this works. We feel closest to those who confirm our version of reality. Alignment breeds closeness. Neurologically, recognition lights up the brain's reward system. When someone hears, "That makes sense," they feel as though their investment, their effort to share, was given value in return. This reciprocity builds trust and emotional intimacy faster than almost anything else. Marcus Aurelius captured this spirit when he wrote, "Be tolerant with others, strict with yourself." Saying "that makes sense" is an act of tolerance. It's not surrendering truth, it's choosing respect over the impulse to correct or dominate. I once saw this play out in a tense business discussion. A team member suggested an approach that I personally disagreed with. My first instinct was to say, "That won't work." But instead I paused, listened, and said, "That makes sense. I can see why you'd approach it that way." Then I added, "Let's also consider this angle." The shift in the room was immediate. Instead of shutting him down, I opened space for collaboration. His defensiveness dropped, and what could have turned into an argument became a creative problem-solving session. The secret is to be specific. Don't just say, "That makes sense," grounded in detail. "That makes sense because I can see how you connected X with Y." This transforms the phrase into a mirror, and when people see their thoughts mirrored in you, they unconsciously feel safe, respected, and even drawn to your presence. Seneca once said, "We are members of one great body. Connection is our nature." The word sense affirms that connection, even when perspectives differ. It turns potential opposition into partnership. In daily life, use this word in moments of disagreement or tension. Instead of immediately correcting, acknowledge. Instead of shutting down, reflect. It doesn't weaken your position, it strengthens it. Because people are more open to hearing you when they feel heard themselves. So, the next time you're in a debate, a negotiation, or even a heartfelt conversation, remember the quiet power of sense. It's not about winning, it's about building. And the person who builds trust becomes unforgettable. Word number 3, right. The third word is right. It might sound simple, but in conversation, your right can be one of the most powerful bridges between people. Why? Because it answers one of the deepest unspoken human hungers, the desire to be validated. Every person, no matter how confident they seem, carries a quiet need to hear, "You are correct. You are seen. You are valued." And when you say "you're right" with sincerity, you're not just validating an idea, you're affirming the person behind it. Psychologists call this the confirmation bias. We naturally feel drawn to those who affirm our beliefs, our perspective, or our experience. By recognizing where someone is right, even in small ways, you lower defensiveness, build trust, and open a path to deeper connection. But here's the key: authenticity. If you overuse it, your right becomes hollow, a trick rather than a truth. But when used sincerely, at the right moment, it's unforgettable. I remember a heated discussion with a close friend years ago. We disagreed strongly on how to handle a situation. My instinct was to push back, to argue my side harder. But instead, I stopped and said, "You're right about that part. I can see what you mean." The atmosphere changed instantly. His shoulders relaxed, his tone softened. From conflict, we moved into collaboration. The truth is, I didn't agree with everything, but by recognizing where he was right, I made space for mutual respect. The Stoics saw this not as weakness, but as strength. Seneca wrote, "It is the power of a great mind to acknowledge and embrace the truth, no matter where it comes from." To say, "You're right," is to honor truth above ego. The insecure man fights to win every point. The wise man yields when truth demands it, and in doing so, he earns more respect than endless argument ever could. Think about attraction and influence. People are naturally drawn to those who don't feel the need to dominate every conversation. When you validate someone sincerely, you signal humility, maturity, and presence. These are magnetic qualities because they show strength without aggression. In practice, use right strategically. Look someone in the eye, pause, and say it with weight. You're right about that. Let it land. You'll see the effect immediately. The ego relaxes, the tension fades, and the space for authentic connection opens. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to value truth over pride. And this simple word is your way of living that wisdom. Not to flatter, not to manipulate, but to recognize when another person's perspective has merit. Because truth doesn't belong to us. It stands on its own, waiting to be acknowledged. So remember, saying you're right doesn't make you smaller. It makes you stronger, because it shows that your pursuit is not victory over others, but partnership with truth. And that is irresistible. Word number 4, listen. The fourth word is listen. On the surface, it seems too ordinary to matter. But in practice, it's one of the rarest gifts you can offer, and one of the most magnetic. We live in a noisy world. Conversations are often competitions. Who speaks faster? Who makes the sharper point? Studies show the average person retains only about 25% of what they hear. That means true listening, listening without distraction, without judgment, without rehearsing your reply, is shockingly scarce. And scarcity creates value. When you say, "I'm listening," and mean it, you do more than confirm you heard someone's words. You signal presence. You're telling them, right now you matter. You have my full attention. And that presence is irresistible. Neuroscience confirms it. Being deeply listened to activates the brain's reward pathways, the same ones triggered by receiving gifts. That's why people feel lighter, calmer, even happier after being truly heard. The Stoics valued this long before science caught up. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, famously said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Seneca added, "The wise person is slow to speak, but quick to listen." To them, listening wasn't weakness, it was mastery. I once experienced this at a family gathering. A relative was venting about work frustrations. Normally, I'd try to give advice or compare it to my own experience. But this time, I simply leaned forward, nodded, and said, "I'm listening." Then I stayed quiet. Within minutes, his energy shifted. He went from angry to reflective, and at the end, he said something surprising. "You always make me feel calmer." I hadn't solved his problems. I had simply listened. This is why listening is magnetic. Physical appearance might capture attention, but it rarely sustains it. What sustains trust, attraction, and respect is the feeling of being understood. When you listen, you create safety. And safety is what people crave most in relationships, friendships, and even leadership. So remember, listen is not just a word. It's a presence. Use it sincerely, and you'll notice people lean closer, not because you dazzled them, but because you made them feel valued. And that is unforgettable. Word number 5. Tell. The 5th word is tell. It might surprise you, but when you ask someone, "Tell me," you do something extraordinary. You invite them to share themselves. Think of how most conversations start. "How are you?" or "What's up?" These are polite, but they rarely go anywhere. They're routine scripts, and routine makes us invisible. But when you replace them with a phrase like, "Tell me something good," or "Tell me what's on your mind," you break the script. You create curiosity, warmth, and presence. Psychologists call this the self-disclosure effect. When people share something meaningful about themselves, they feel more connected to the listener. By using the word tell, you're not giving a lecture, you're opening a door. Neuroscience backs this up. Studies show that self-disclosure activates the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine. In other words, when people talk about themselves, they literally feel pleasure. And you become associated with that good feeling. The Stoics also understood the power of invitation. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You are not here to instruct, but to cooperate. To ask, to invite, to say, 'Tell me,' is to step into cooperation." It shows humility, the recognition that the other person has wisdom, experience, or perspective worth hearing. I tested this once with a stranger on a flight. Instead of asking the generic, "Where are you from?" I leaned slightly and said, "Tell me something you enjoy doing outside of work." His face lit up. He launched into a story about mountain climbing, his eyes alive with passion. Hours passed, and by the end, he said, "That was one of the best conversations I've had in years." Why? Because tell created space for him to be himself. The word works in relationships too. Imagine asking your partner after a long day, "Tell me one highlight from today." Instead of the usual, "How was your day?" You invite them into reflection and joy. It deepens connection in seconds. And here's the secret. When you use tell, you shift the focus from yourself to them. And paradoxically, that makes you unforgettable. People remember not the ones who spoke the most, but the ones who made them feel heard, valued, and safe to share. So the next time you want to spark connection, skip the predictable script. Look someone in the eye and say, "Tell me." It doesn't just start a conversation, it awakens one. And in that moment, you become magnetic. So now you know the 5 words: understand, sense, write, listen, tell. 5 simple words, but when spoken with presence, they transform everything. These aren't tricks, they're tools. Timeless tools the Stoics lived by, now confirmed by psychology and neuroscience. Think about it. Most people chase attention by speaking louder, trying harder, or forcing themselves to impress. But the truth is, real connection doesn't come from force. It comes from presence. People aren't drawn to the one who talks the most. They're drawn to the one who makes them feel understood, valued, and safe. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." These words are how you be that person. A man or woman of depth, presence, and calm strength. Someone people naturally lean toward, not because of charm or clever lines, but because of how you make them feel. Now I want you to reflect. Out of these 5 words, which one resonated most with you? Maybe it's understand, because you know people around you crave to be heard. Maybe it's listen, because you've realized how rare true attention really is. Or maybe it's tell, the invitation that breaks the routine and sparks real connection. Drop your answer in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective, and I'll be reading through them to see which words struck the deepest chord with you. And if this video gave you insight, do me a favor. Hit the like button so more people can discover this wisdom, and subscribe to Wisdom for Worlds. Every week, we dive into timeless lessons from Stoicism and modern psychology. Lessons that don't just change how you think, but how you live, lead, and connect. Because in the end, attraction isn't about chasing or pretending. It's about awakening presence. And presence begins with the right words, spoken at the right time. Use them wisely, and you won't just speak, you'll resonate. You'll become unforgettable.